Hey, this Omar just on here doing a recap of some of the Thursday games that took place. And we gonna first hit off the Bills and the Lions and like what I thought about the game and all that good stuff. It was a competitive game, as to be expected. Only people that probably didn't pay attention much to the season this year that I probably thought it was going to be a rout by the Bills, but how the Bills been playing lately. The Lions is pretty thorough, and you know one of them teams that people probably gonna really see make some noise next year. Depending on certain additions and subtractions that they do to the roster, but as far as offensive wise, they can pretty much go blow for blow with uh with anybody in the league. And yesterday's game, it was just a few plays that maybe could have made the ball tilt towards Detroit way. You know, a couple of stats that stick out to start off. The third down efficiency by the Bills. They was 7 of 12. Detroit was 6 of 15, but they was 3 for 3 on fourth downs. You know, and they was in possession to really take control of the game, but they had that early turnover in the first half. And then I think when they missed that field goal where they could have turned the game from 19 to 17, would have probably pushed the game into overtime. That was a play that maybe they could have got back. And then that other and third down play that they did late, that it could have, had they converted that, what I'm saying, it could have possibly led to a possible win, by Detroit. Plays, it was almost a wash. Buffalo had 74 plays. Detroit had 67 plays. Yards, it was 401 for Buffalo and 326. Total drives, they both had 10. And then yards per play, it was 5.4 for Buffalo, and Detroit had 4.9. So it was pretty much a nip and tuck type of game. Penalties. Buffalo had more with 5, and Detroit had 3. Time possession, they had it for 31 minutes, and Detroit had it for 28 minutes. So like I said, it was pretty much like like, because of how Buffalo's secondary has been looking, and then the fact that they lost Von Miller early, it was going to be like a game where Detroit could, move the ball at will. And I mean, pretty much anybody can move the ball at will on Buffalo. The thing with Buffalo that they good at is, you know, certain situations. You feel me? Like short yardage. Buffalo got some good short yardage defense where they can get you off the field if you got to convert on. But Detroit actually was converting those yesterday. But usually when Buffalo gets you in short yardage, normally if you're in the red zone, you end up kicking field goals as opposed to converting. And then just like yesterday, it's like drive stoppers. That's what I want to say. And Buffalo's good at that situationally. But overall, if you very talented and push the ball down the field, which Detroit really didn't do that too much. They if anything, they could have tried that a little bit more. And that was one thing I could have said for them. Like, they secondaries has been shaky for the past few, especially the past month, past 4 weeks for sure. It was some where they could have tried to push it down the field, But they didn't really do that. They kind of, and I mean the passing game that they was doing was pretty effective. You know, you was able to have everybody back for the first time, and I guess since the early part of the season. You had St. Brown out there with DJ Chark, and you had Josh Reynolds, and so right there, that's a solid passing attack. You mix it in with the running game that they've been, you know, like underrated. You feel me? And what's kind of been surprising me is how at first before the season I thought Swift was going to be one of the main contributors into that offense, but then it's turned out to be Williams. Williams kind of been stealing Swift's touches. And then now they threw in Justin Jackson, the former Charger, into the fold, and he's still in touches. So it's like it's literally a running back by committee. But you go and you run down a few things that I guess we'll start with Detroit. Detroit Golf. He had a solid game. You know what I'm saying? He didn't really have no turnovers. He only got sacked twice. He was 28 to 37, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Running the ball, they didn't even get 100. They got 96 as a team. 66 by Williams and a touchdown. Swift only had 19 with 5 carries, and Jackson wasn't as effective as he had been in the previous games. And so the running game really wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? They kind of was more onto the passing game. St. Brown, the stud dude, did I guess if you was playing fantasy, you just start him every week because he's definitely been. If you go back to last year, and he started this year hot, but then he got hurt, and you know yesterday was the first day, or the other day was the first day that he scored a touchdown since week 2. But I guess he's been the person that kind of gets the receptions and whatnot. Raymond, he ain't really do nothing. You know what I'm saying? He had 6 targets, caught 4 for 35, and Swift had 8 targets, caught 4 for 24. So, aside from St. Brown giving them 122 of the 240, the other receivers didn't really do too much. Williams fumbled the ball, and they had 2 turnovers. That kind of like especially that first one. That first one kind of like it changed a little bit of the momentum because Detroit was kind of getting a good feel for like, okay, yeah, like they was feeling good about how they can move the ball against Buffalo defense, and you could see when they got the ball back as soon as Buffalo scored. You know what I'm saying? They got the ball back and they just moved the ball at will. They was taking chances and gambling because, that's what you're supposed to do since, Buffalo, is, considered the better team. So, they was going for all them 4th downs and they was converting. So it was like the flow of the game was kind of, with Detroit. But this dude right here, man, I mean, if you let him get it going with his legs and passing, they're gonna be hard to beat. I'm not really sold on them, but I at least respect them to know that much about them. You gotta maintain your assignments. You see him, if you just focus on just, D'ing up the receivers, if he see you bullshitting, either the, defensive tackle start loafing and your eyes ain't in the right place, he gonna definitely take off. He don't mind doing that because he's really their most effective runner. And so you slide to, oh shit, I didn't even know that Justin Houston had 2 sacks and shit. They was making some plays and shit. The guy that was not really effective, I mean, he was rushing, but let me see what Hitchison had. It just said, yeah, he wasn't even the top dudes as far as like you know, QB pressures and shit like that, or QB hits. But yeah, you slide over to Buffalo, and Josh Allen, he had one interception, he had two touchdowns, 24, 42, 253. So that's kind of like a basic game. He had got sacked 3 times. Pass rating was 80. Running the ball, they ran for 164. He kind of affects the game differently, especially with his legs. So he had 10 carries, 78 yards, and 21 was his longest and he had a touchdown. Singletary been dry balling though, not getting 100 yards and shit, but he's been giving them like steady over 50 the past few games. And so, especially this past month, he's had more games like that than he did earlier in the season. And yesterday he had 14 for 72 yards and whatnot. And with them, if you can get that balance of, Allen gave them just 250, but they was able to control the clock a little bit with the running. They're gonna be really hard to beat because you're not able to get them off the field. And so, McKenzie, he was the leading scorer. I don't know. It just seemed like, something's been off with the him and Diggs connection. I mean, because they had a time where they was like lighting it up. I'm talking about Diggs scoring touchdowns and he getting 100 yards. But Diggs had 8 for 77 and a touchdown. That's cool, but it really wasn't like game changing. McKenzie kind of did more because he was I guess they didn't expect it. So he had out of 10 targets, he caught 6 for 96 and a touchdown. But Davis, he had only 38 yards and Knox only had 17. So Detroit did enough, especially with the stats I just ran down. That's enough to possibly, sneak away with the dub. You look at the sacks, they only had 2 sacks, but they had 10 QB hits. And so, people was chiming in. Phillips had 2. Oliver had 2. He stayed was in the backfield for most of the night. So I'm just gonna keep looking at Buffalo. I ain't sold on them. I still think they kind of flawed. Cause I don't really trust Allen. And like I said, if Detroit would have made the kick in the second half, in the third quarter, that kind of changed the next couple of scores that Detroit had, because then that would have flipped the score. But then the Buffalo dude did miss a kick too, so that means that Detroit probably still would have had to been forced to, score a touchdown right there. But then that drive to where, Buffalo was able to get the game winning score, fucking dumbass prevent. You know what I'm saying? I've been hollering that for, the whole season. You play that prevent versus certain quarterbacks and, you're going to get fucked. So they did that shit, and Allen just shredded their ass like he's supposed to. Got them boys in field goal range, and he went ahead and kicked that thing. You know what I'm saying? Now Bass, he's solid. So, that was a good performance by Detroit. But Buffalo found a way to get a dub, especially with the it was a weird week with them. They were supposed to have a home game and all that snow, so it forced them to go to Detroit last Sunday. Then they had to fucking go back to Buffalo and then fly back to Detroit. So that probably was a lot too, as far as fucking up their preparation. But yeah, they did enough to get the win. So you gotta give them all the respect. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. All right, thanks for listening.